Hello, I'm Melissa.
Ivanovich, or Ivan.
And welcome to our channel, Unity for Gaia, where we discuss all things concerning your awakening, the information that's out there, our experiences, and we hope to assist you and maybe bring a little levity into your process. Would you like to tell them what the topic of conversation is today?
Karmic relationships and karmic and twin flame relationships. What is the difference? Because some people get confused whether they're in a twin flame relationship or divine partnership. I think divine partnership is more apt versus twin flame. Twin flame, that terminology gets used and misconstrued and manipulated to an extent. And recognizing when you're in a karmic relationship versus actually a divine partnership. And would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes, because there is, first of all, a huge thing in the New Age community, right? That is a desperation to have your person, the twin flame dynamics that get thrown around, and just because there's such a desire to have that partnership, and there's so many different ways it's presented, and people can get very confused. And sometimes what I've seen, and I'm sure Ivan has seen as well, is it can actually lead people into some toxic relationships that maybe not be for their best and highest good. Sometimes, and there's always a lesson there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always a lesson to be learned, but sometimes it can be just
A bit distorted.
a bit distorted. Yeah,
honest.
that would be a good way to say it. And just to know what you're dealing with. And lots of times too, you also see, the twin flame being presented as actually the balance between the masculine and the feminine within, right?
Right.
Which is a right, you want that, right? I mean, that's something that you're hoping for and to achieve. But finding that within yourself first, so that when you do come into partnership and find your person, you've already been working on that in yourself, and you bring that to the table and that understanding. Not that the other person completes you or they have something that you've been missing without them in that respect, but that you are whole in who you are and working on balancing your own masculine and feminine energies within, so that two balanced, or working on, because we're always working on ourselves, people that are working on constantly growing that way on their own come together into a healthy relationship, a divine partnership. So anything you'd like to say about that?
Just that, first off, if you already have the concept of this person completes me, first off, you need to complete yourself and come into your own wholeness, come into your own holiness. There's no reason why you should, and this is just my perspective, and this is what I have learned in my own experience. When you complete yourself, you are bringing yourself as a whole to a relationship. You're not bringing half of you, 75%, 82% of you to a relationship and expecting the other person to fill in that whatever remainder of what's missing from you, for them to fill that in. Because they're not there to fill the rest of you in. You are there to fill the rest of you in. And then once you come forward in that full wholeness, and it's a process of your own self-healing, it's a process of internalizing traumas from any and all relationships. And it takes time and it takes effort. So if people wish to just sit on their butts, and actually that's not a bad idea because I meditate on my butt. But that's not my point. My point is, put effort into yourself to better yourself, and in turn, as you heal all that, you release all that from your body, from your cellular structure, from your energetic fields, or from your energetic bodies, if if this sounds like gibberish, it's okay, you'll figure it out eventually. But you start clearing all that, and in clearing all that, you become more your whole divine self, and that the more divinity you bring into yourself, which is yourself, now you can come forward and present yourself to this other person in wholeness or in holiness, however you wish to, emanate that light. And would you rather give 75%, 82% of yourself and shortchange that person from getting 100% of yourself? Then you would not be doing a service. Not only you'd be doing a disservice to yourself and to that other person, just because you're not bringing all of yourself into that relationship. And that's where a lot of people get caught up in the distortions of, well, I found my better half, and I used to say that, or my other half. Why do you need another half? Why not?
You're whole just as you are.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Why not come forward and find that complement, that person that complements you, that brings a dynamic. Well, if you're already balanced within yourself, you find this other person that's already balanced within themselves, and then you create this dynamic of a balanced being with another balanced being, and then it just turns into something very, very effortless and very magical. And your self-exploration of both parties that are working on their wholeness and healing themselves, and actually it creates a dynamic of a much more balanced evolution of self with both partners versus having someone that's doing the work and is elevating and it's expanding and growing, and one that's just staying down here and maybe shifting. Well, this one's running away per se, as far as evolving goes. So,
well, something you brought up there, which is kind of, the first thing is telling the difference between a karmic and a twin flame relationship, because they are two separate things. And we don't really, we say twin flame and throw it around. Ivan and I call it more of a divine partnership than actually a twin flame, because there's so much like weird, distorted twin flame stuff in the spiritual, the awakened, the new age community. Particularly what we were just talking about, which is, I need this other person to complete me. They're going to activate me. They're going to whatever.
Right.
That always keeps you still looking outside of yourself for something that is actually inherently within you, right? It's all within you. So that's like kind of the distorted, that part of the twin flame.
Right.
But the karmic relationship and clearing karma, we have relationships with people, and sometimes you've spent many years with them, depending on, where your age is, right? And it could have been a marriage. It could be a long-term, live-in partnership that you've been in for many years. It could be a couple of years, whatever. But we have these karmic relationships that come up, and they're kind of like, we used to call them like a kindred soul, that type of thing, right?
Or a soulmate. Some people refer to them as soulmates.
Yeah, and there's something, you can really tell, what I've learned from karmic relationships is it doesn't flow easily. There's a lot of triggering each other off. It shows you, first of all, your stuff in a way, yes, that can be very uncomfortable. But there's also things there that you need to clear with that other person that you've come into this lifetime to clear so that you can move forward. And now that's more important than ever, because this is the lifetime where we can really work on and do that stuff. So it could be something, for instance, like sometimes we've had somebody we've been in a relationship with in one way or another for several lifetimes here on Earth, right? So it could have been, you're my sister in one lifetime, I was your husband in another lifetime, and there's been 3 or 4 really close karmic entangled relationships with issues that didn't get healed, cleared, and resolved. Which is one of the reasons people come to, BQH sessions and things like that, to really find those answers and work on that stuff. But once we see what those patterns are that are running, the different patterns that we've shared with that person lifetime after lifetime that keep coming up, and very often what I found is it's also a pattern that's occurring in other relationships in your life. But with this person that's your partner now, it's a very prevalent dynamic, and it's just carrying over and flowing over into other relationships, maybe with your parents or your kids
Right.
or your siblings or your friends, or how you just deal with people in general. And so there is that karma that needs to be clear. But when you recognize the lesson and you clear that, right, that's the purpose of those relationships. And then you find yourself being in that relationship very often and feeling like there's nothing left here for me now, right? I've grown, I've gotten what I needed, and I'm ready to move on and move forward.
So in that process, you actually have outgrown the relationship, i.e. you cleared that karma because you've already, you're in a much better state, much better place to be as far as that goes, as far as relationships go. So yeah, it's literally that. To me, it feels like, okay, I'm with this person. The relation started from point A. We've been together for so long. Then after a while, just like with friendships and then relationships in general, you may start feeling like, I'm going a different direction. That I thought the same person was going the same direction, but this person is veering off this way and I'm still going this way. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the fact that both parties have actually learned what they were meant to learn, and now it's time to move on, regardless if it's a couple of months, a couple of years, or even being in marriages and going through a divorce process, even when there's children involved. You know, a lot of people, and this is no judgment, you can all decide what you wish to do with your lives. We're not telling you how to live, but if you already know in a relationship that you have children, and you want to stay with that partner or that person for the kids, which is very admirable, but there needs to be some deep soul searching of, are you doing it for the kids at your own detriment, at the behest of you not growing and expanding as a soul? And even who's to say that you decide to separate with that person, and because now you're separated with that person was given the opportunity to continue to grow, and you've given yourself the opportunity to grow, and now your children have two beautiful examples of people that decided they were together, and then they decided, you know what, it's not working. They separated, and now they're seeing two beautiful examples of parents that are growing in their own way, and in turn it's helping the children figure out, once they're of age, this is what finding true love or true divine partnership is, and recognizing, wow, if it's not working, why even continue to engage in something that puts a toxic spin on it? Because for the sake of the kids, you can, depend on the people, create a dynamic of toxicity where it creates confusion with them, within themselves, because they're not seeing the parents who are supposed to be their guides, their examples on how to survive here to be happy, truly happy, you know?
Well, and part of, the karmic relationships and clearing those patterns, it allows for both people to bring in more energy into those spaces and more of their soul essence and who they are and the gifts and the things they may want to explore, they may want to bring into this lifetime. And now that they've cleared those old patterns out, it makes room for the new, and they can just grow apart naturally for those reasons as well, right? And as far as like having children and, that sort of thing goes, again, do what you want. It's not like Melissa and Ivan were saying. I do have, I came into our marriage as a mom. My son's 21, so, he's grown now, but his dad and I split when he was young. He was almost 6. And so the relationship just wasn't working. We were very different people. And ultimately, I did make the choice to move out on my own. We were not married, but we'd been living together since I was pregnant and had been together for many years. And it just was my growth and where my life was taking me and what I was interested in as I did more of my own healing journey. And I followed, clearing patterns in myself, even though he did not want to do those things. And this is an important one here to point out, is sometimes in the karmic relationships, one of you is doing the work, the other one is not. And you can't hold that person's feet to the fire, so to speak. You can clear it on your end, and whether they realize it or not, you are clearing and healing stuff and giving them the opportunity to do the same.
Right.
Whether they take up the mantle and do that is completely up to them. Some people just don't want to do the work. They want to be a victim, doing their own or whatever it is.
For however long they choose.
But, you are still doing the work for yourself and clearing and healing that for yourself and recognizing those patterns and moving through that. And in doing so, the kids, right, being the most important, he and I stayed friends. We communicated, we shared our kid together in a way that it was like, hey, he wants to go to your house this weekend. We didn't have, like the court system and all that, like managing our child for us. We worked it out between us, and our son always had input, and we went to sporting events and could sit together, and there was always that relationship. So as long as the two of you as adults can have a cohesive understanding that even though it didn't work out for the two of you, that the child still matters, and that you had something at one time that brought you together, you had a child or children together, and that you can put the child first in those situations and still show them that you can be together, that child turns out just fine. They are healthy and whole, and even though their parents don't live in the same house, they still do fairly well because they don't feel the anguish of being put in the middle, being separated, being pulled apart, and they know that they still have access to both parents at all times. And it works out very well that way, so I just wanted to put that in there.
Right.
But so it's definitely the clearing the karma and the old patterns to make way for the new, which is part of, moving forward into a healthier relationship, a divine partnership, and preparing yourself for that, right?
Right. So on top of that, for people that have that type of dynamic, you don't want to put another human being in a toxic relationship, because you're not doing, people, the adults, are not doing themselves or even the children, if that's the dynamic, any favors by using the kids as an excuse to stay together. We're doing it because of the kids. The kids just want to have fun. They want to enjoy life. And if the two main providers of a roof over their head and the ambiance to have fun are not having fun, well, it's really challenging to have fun from a child's perspective. Just saying.
Yeah.
So just creating that, knowing and recognizing, here again, if a relationship is going to continue working or not. And back to the karmic part of it is, we all meet people throughout our lives that would come together. There's a connection, there's a dynamic, and the relationships are great for a while, and then they start drifting apart. That's how, from my experience, I've been able to figure out which relationships are long-term, which relationships are karmic, and specifically more on the romantic side of the house is just that. In the relationship, are you constantly fighting against each other? And if you are, what's that teaching you?
Or compromising yourself for that person.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we part of this video today is that we're going to share our own personal story of how we came into our partnership and what we've learned. This is part of it, and how we both came from a karmic relationship first that we were healing and clearing.
Right.
And that's, where we speak from. What did you learn from your karmic relationship? I am putting him on the spot, ladies and gentlemen.
That I am very naive,
How so?
gullible. Shh. Don't shh me, shh yourself. Um, no, for me, it was literally as I have become more intuitive and started learning and discovering myself, remembering what I had forgotten, because a lot of people use this whole, oh, I'm going through my awakening. Am I asleep or am I awake right now? I'm pretty sure I'm awake. I mean, if this is a dream, this is a heck of a dream, I'll tell you that much. I'm just saying. But no, to me, it's just remembrance process. What are you starting to remember? I start remembering as I started learning how to talk to my guides, to my higher selves, which, that's a conversation for another story. For another story? Really? Story? I guess we're in story time. We are. So what I ended up... Are you okay? Anyways, what I ended up learning in my process is the beautiful people that I have to say, call it crappy scenarios or not, heartbreaking scenarios or not, heart-crushing scenarios or not. I was in this... Thank you. Just checking in with my higher self. Those were karma that I needed to clear. I don't like to say payback because that incites debt and debt. Anyways, clearing karma. What these other people... Are you okay? Okay. Beautiful people that have come and gone, that in the relationship aspect of it, of myself thinking, okay, here I'm entertaining someone else as a romantic partner. And as that dynamic with myself and this other person who I was entertaining as a romantic partner, we happen to be very total opposite. So initially, via me being clairaudient and talking to my higher self, many times the logical me would not have entertained that beautiful person just because she is the total opposite of me. Is, same thing. And then that dynamic, it gave me such a contrast from my beloved to realize the experiences that I went through with that beautiful person was bringing forward a lot of visions, a lot of remembrances from other lifetimes where I have been a male, that person happened to be a female as well. Or I happen to be a female, that person happened to be a male as well. But there was a lot of emotional trauma that was trapped there that we caused each other. Whether it was infidelity or whether it was longing for someone that was saying, I will come back and you're my person in that other lifetime, and that person doesn't come back, and therefore there's one person there as the victim, right? Of I've been lied to, this person has betrayed me, or how could they do this? They broke my heart, and I died from a heart because my heart was broken, and that is the thing. And discovering that for myself and speaking this type of conversation with this other beautiful person in that respect and sharing that experience and her acknowledging, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and vice versa. So it's not the victim mentality of this person did this to me. It's we have done it to each other in many lifetimes. So because there was karma there that both myself and this other person had wronged ourselves, didn't matter what physical body we were, male or female, we wronged each other. And in this lifetime, we learned to get along and clear and be cordial and be kinder to each other and grow with each other. And that has been my journey as far as my intuitive journey and my remembrance process. And as we clear a lot of that karma, a lot of these things that happen that are patterns that you can also, that come up during Beyond Quantum Healing hypnosis sessions, you can start seeing those patterns even in this life, which I was seeing a repetitive pattern. And once I identified that pattern, then I addressed it and I stopped participating in a certain way. You start participating in those certain ways, that's your form of clearing. I will not do that anymore. And then connecting that to other lifetimes where I myself and this other person participated in a similar manner, and both parties viewed it, addressed it, and said, no, not in this lifetime. That's not what we will do.
I think it's important, sorry to interrupt you,
No, go
but
ahead.
to point out here that his experience in the relationship he's speaking of, both people were awakened.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
I've come out of a karmic relationship with somebody that was very heavily still stuck in their programming, their hurt, their anger, their everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my relationship before Ivan, that was what some of you may be experiencing, which is the person is not. They're not interested in a spiritual journey. They're not interested in an awakened journey. They're not interested in doing their work. So, you know, sometimes you have that dynamic as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, for me, I was fortunate that I did have actually two. One was a romantic, one was more on the friendship. One was a potential, and I use the terms loosely, very loosely, romantic type of stuff. But from the romantic aspect, because that's how both parties wronged each other, is how we cleared that. And on the other relationship, which was more on the friendship side, it was the same. Two very intuitive people figuring out our own dynamics as friends, as a relationship, as we relate to each other. Thank you. And seeing those patterns and then finding out, okay, is there manipulation there or is there not? Am I saying, hey, you should do this because it's convenient for me and I have an unhealed pattern within myself, and now I'm just using my other friend as a crutch or not, just because I don't want to do the work? And that may be a dynamic that some people may be part of, and does happen, whether you view it as an energetic vampire or whatever. Sometimes these relationships can be a little tricky. Does this person really have their best interest in this our best interest in this dynamic, in this relationship, or are they in it for themselves just because they don't want to put the effort in addressing their own stuff? And it's convenient when you have an intuitive friend to say, I'm going through this, can you help me figure this out, blah, blah, which there's nothing wrong with that, or helping each other. But is the other person who you're asking for the help, are they figuring that out for you, and are they giving you all the answers? Or are you working in conjunction and unison to figure out what those questions are? And in turn, once you get to those epiphanies, those answers, are you addressing it within yourself, or are you still going back to your friend, quote unquote, and continue to say, oh my God, I'm still dealing with this, I'm still dealing with that, and it's the same story over and over that one party repeats to another, and the other party, because they think they're service to others, they're doing them a solid, it's actually becoming a hindrance, and there's an imbalance in that dynamic. And once you're done with certain conversations, you may feel a little bit drained. And usually, if you're in a healthy relationship, not usually, my higher self's correcting me, when you are in a healthy relationship, doesn't matter what type of relationship, romantic or not, everyone gets lifted up. Even if you're in a serious relationship, it may be a life and death situation, relationship, or life and death topic. But once you finish the conversation, both parties, when you disconnect, are feeling much more at peace with yourself. And there's no, oh my God, this person just came in and dumped all their freaking drama and their sewage on me, and now I feel icky, I gotta take a bath and cleanse this stuff out. Or are both parties feeling like they both participated and were being responsible about figuring out what's the best course of action to move forward? And one party may say, wow, I did really good, I just helped my friend tremendously in figuring themselves out, now I feel good. And the other party may feel very appreciative and grateful, oh my God, I'm so thankful for my friend that just called me because I feel so much better about myself and we both figured it out. Now I know what to do to address whatever that is, and move forward and be responsible about my life and not constantly wish to have other people resolve all my issues, all my.
You just totally went off in left field with this conversation into friendships and other stuff, right?
Well, it's relationships, but okay, I went.
I'm sitting here going, he's just going to cover every relationship he's had in the last 15 years.
No. There's a method to this madness because we went into friendship, right? How did we start up
as friends, with no clue that we were each other's person. So just to put that out there as well, because it's not like oh, I met him and the skies opened and oh my gosh, all the answers were there and angels came flying into the room with their trumpets. Like, that's not
angels. So you said I went to left field, but the left field that I went to is the left field where I found her. Because when I first started talking to my beloved Melly Bell over here, I was like, wow, I just came across this beautiful person. Beautiful, quite obvious. But there's someone that I can learn so much from. And for the longest time, I was like, oh, she freaking rocks. She's awesome. Because, in the new age traps, everyone's oh, brother, oh, sister, oh, this, oh, that. Okay, great. If that works for you, great. Not knocking it. But because I had that whole attitude, oh my God, I found my star sister from another mister because she sure as fuck isn't my star brother from another mother. Right? So this whole time, like a dorksicle, I'm like, oh, she's my star sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. She's my sister. Yeah. Our higher selves were having a field day every single time. I was like, oh, this freaking dork. He has no clue.
Whatever. So before we move on to that topic about friendships, becoming relationships, divine partnership, and what our dynamic was.
Because that's kind of how the people get confused. Well, I'm in a relationship. Oh, so-and-so's really cute and blah, 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 blah. And sometimes that may be a karmic thing, which is kind of how both of us actually went into the karmic relationship that you were in before you met me, and the karmic relationship that I went into that I thought was my person. And it starts as friendships and then turns sometimes into relationships.
Well, the karmic relationship where the other person isn't awake is a little bit different of a scenario, because especially if you were in the relationship, which is happening to a lot of people all over the world right now, if you were with this person and you've had an awakening, a spiritual awakening, and they haven't, suddenly you feel like, who is this person, or why am I here, or what have we been doing? And it really changes a lot that way. If the relationship was already strained to begin with, because it's that karmic relationship where you're working through a lot of stuff, it can be just like, it takes it and amps, it brings everything out into the light, and you're working on yourself, you're seeing things, you're seeing patterns. It changes the dynamic so much, and you start to see where you have been maybe holding that person up in some way, because out of your heart, it's like, we have these weird distorted things in relationships that we've been taught in the false matrix, which is like, you have to be, that creates that codependency. In other words, you've got to be the heavy lifter. You pick up the slack for them, right? That sort of thing. Just different things like you're a bad person if, this person's struggling and you don't, support them and hold them up. Well, a person struggling is one thing, but a partner who lets you do all the constant work and sit on their butt for 10 years and not even attempt to have an income, when you're not living, like you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're barely getting by. Now, that's not, there's some lessons there to be learned, but that is not the other person stepping up to the plate and meeting you and wanting to build something with you. That's like an energy vampire, if you want to put it in just like those kind of terms.
Right.
And those are just people that don't want to do the work or don't want to be sovereign in themselves. So finding that sovereignty in the relationship, and through sovereignty is how we find unity, which is what Unity for Gaia is all about. True. And becoming sovereign yourself. And part of becoming sovereign means that you see those patterns and you recognize them, how they're laid out before you in the relationships that you're in, and what you need to do to become sovereign, being able to be self-resilient, reliable on yourself, provide for yourself and do what you need to do for yourself, and not see yourself as a victim of your life or your circumstances. And so all those distortions that get muddled into relationships that were in the false matrix, and then you have an awakening, like a very strong, like Kundalini spiritual awakening, a shift in your consciousness, however you want to look at it, and the other person's still stuck. Like they're not even staying in their lane, they're stuck in the parking spot. Like they haven't left the parking lot since 1985 or whatever, so there's,
a long time ago.
Right. So, you accelerate and start to grow past that, and you see the patterns and you see how you've participated. And maybe you have something like a BQH session or remembrance of other lifetimes you've spent with this person, but that's not something that registers with them. It's not something they're into. It's not something they care about. It's not something they believe in or whatever. But, you do the work on your end to become sovereign, and doing that and clearing that and seeing those patterns and doing the work for yourself, you're assisting them, whether they choose to see themselves as a victim or stay there or not. You are still, doing the work on you. And so that's, we had different experiences as far as our last relationships before we met. He had a karmic relationship with somebody else who was awakened. I had one with somebody who's still watching CNN.
News networks, doesn't matter, whoever.
Do what you want with that. No judgment. I'm just kind of explaining the very
It's just that, and it's quite obvious when you start outgrowing someone in that respect, because even the person, what is it typically they say? You've changed. That's not who you used to. That's not the person that when you're not the same person that I met. Of course not. We're all growing up.
Yeah, we've grown. Exactly. Growing and healing brings change, and that makes them uncomfortable. It makes them they either have the choice to really look at themselves and do that, and some people just don't want to, they don't want to heal, they don't want to grow, they want to hold on out of fear or, comfort, whatever it is, and that's their choice. That is absolutely 100% their choice. So,
right.
So should we tell our tale?
Huh? Well, back in the magical forest, we say. Really, that type of tale?
Yeah, I think the point with telling our story is how surprising, unexpected, and how easy, how everything lines up and how it flows. Just so many, just the way everything comes together, right?
Right.
Would be a good way to. So I was in a group online. We all participate in groups of different, teachings, social media, classes you might take online for self-enrichment, whatever.
Certifications,
and
etc.
So I was in a class, and some of the people in the class decided that we wanted to, outside of the class, get together and share information with each other and grow and learn together. And so started having Zoom meetings like every week, every 2 weeks. We'd get together for a couple hours in the evening and Zoom together, because we were all over the world, from Australia to the East Coast, from the West Coast United States, So we were all over. And one of the ladies in the group said, "Oh, is it okay with you if I bring and invite my friend Ivan next time? He's very intuitive, he's clairaudient, and I really think he'd enjoy being here and you guys would like him." So of course we're like, okay, sure, right? Invite Ivan. So we invite Ivan, and Ivan shows up, right, in the Zoom room. And the first time he was in the Zoom room, he was pretty quiet. And then the second time, he was in the Zoom room, he shared a bit more and was very engaged with each one of us. And we were all like doing tarot cards and practicing tarot cards on each other and doing little readings for each other and stuff like that and just having fun. And he was, participating with us.
Yeah, I don't do the tarot cards. I just talk to my guides, my higher self, and whatever they were participating in, which I felt like a little fish out of water. Ironic, because I'm a Pisces. But the fact that I'm like, okay, this isn't awkward because they have a commonality. They've learned how to do the tarot card readings, and they do it very well. And of course, I don't want to be left. I'm not gonna leave myself out. I'm gonna, apport something to the conversation. So I'm literally a very strong feeler, just like every human being is. And since I've learned to hone a lot of my intuitive abilities, whatever they were saying, I would feel into it and I would share what I would get and what have you. So second time around, Ivan started turning into a bit more of a chatty Cathy, which typically I'm much
Ivan's
more
a chatty Cathy? You don't say. No one's noticed.
Anywho, yeah, typically I'm a little bit much more reserved, not so much of the blah, 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 blah. But anyways, because I wanted to share, star language, light language, this, and many other things with these lovely ladies and what have you, just because it's sharing time. So that's how we started communicating, or that's actually how I met Melissa, which she intimidated me because she's intimidating. She's a badass mofo. You know what I mean?
No.
She's a badass mother. No pun intended. Oh, pun intended. Pun intended. I'm sorry. Personal trainer, Pilates instructor, yoga instructor. Has trained before in boxing and some other physical activities because she has to defend herself from jerks out there. Cause some guys can be buttheads sometimes, and girls got to do what a girl's got to do. Put a guy in line if they get out of line, right? That's not intimidating. And the way she was speaking, I was just like, okay, she's cute, she's gorgeous, but don't think the wrong. She can read your thoughts. Don't even think the wrong thought or perversion or distortion, whatever, because she will kick your face in, Ivan. So yeah, I was walking on eggshells for a little bit, and eventually we started. We got each other's numbers and what have you. So, of course, I'm not trying to be like you.
Well, a few of us exchanged numbers. It was one of the ladies in the group too. So,
yeah,
because all of us had been on a Zoom, so it wasn't just like he and I exchanged numbers. Like, oh, I'm kind of interested in you. Like, let's exchange numbers.
That wasn't
it was
even
just
a thing.
Friendly, like, aside from Zoom, let's exchange numbers so we can like text, share like funny memes or articles or whatever
Stuff.
It is, or these faces.
Yeah, exactly. Especially being very, very, very intuitive and helping each other there to hone our abilities even more and help each other and remember more. At the time, she happened to be in a. Were you still in the relationship then?
We were
Sorta, kinda,
living together, and
but not really relationship.
Yeah, we were like roommates, and
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out. We actually had this conversation.
Yeah.
One of the first times we met, the women in the group did a tarot card reading for me, and my past partner, that karmic relationship,
Right.
The devil card came up to represent him, in which we were calling the turd in the punch bowl. And, just that, like, the energy around that and everything around it. Just that the karma was cleared, which I had known the karma had been cleared for some time. But when you have a long time invested in a relationship, you live together and stuff, you're just like, oh, do I want to give up? Do I really want to do this? Like, I'm trying to find something there. And when you're actually trying to make it work and force it, that's a bad sign. But you've just invested so much and just like,
you don't want to take a loss, right?
And so, Ivan's like, part of this conversation and helping, and the conversations that we had at that point in our friendship was like, me talking about that kind of thing with him, right? And he had just come out of a karmic relationship
as well.
So we were sharing a lot of that stuff together, and that was what a lot of our conversations were about, and other stuff, everything from like, fairies to galactic this and that to this life, that life, and how's your meditation practice today, right? So just everything. But
what's the irony about that? The fact that she gets a tarot card reading and she gets told it's time to move on from that relationship and getting that guidance, and they're then Captain Intuitive over here. It's like, I think it's time. Well, not I think, I know. I'm feeling into it. And I'm like, you know what the weird thing about this is, Melissa, is you've invested this much in that relationship that you're in, and it's time for you to freaking, the door of the birdcage is open. It's time to fly. It's time for you to spread your wings and broaden your horizons, because the metaphor the vision that I got was your twin flame is already there. He's actually on the outside of the house looking inside the window. He's waving at you. He's trying to get your attention like, hi, I'm over here. Hey, do you see me? Hello, blah, blah. But because you're still in that relationship with this other person, it's a karmic relationship, this other person sees your twin flame outside the window saying, hello, hi, Melissa, hey, hello. That other guy sees your twin flame and keeps closing the windows, closing the doors in his face, and you're not gonna be able to see him until you get out of that relationship. But your divine partner, your twin flame, is already there.
And my guidance was telling me for a long time, like there would be so many things that would show up in my life that were signs that were like, if we have to run your face over with this one more time, we will run your face over it. But it's getting harder to get the skid marks off your eyebrows. So like, we're putting it out there. He's showing you, this other person is showing you exactly why this is so not for you. The red flags, the signs, like it's all there. So it was several months that we were just talking as friends. And there was a conference that we wanted to go to out west in Arizona. And so Ivan was living in Florida at the time.
Right.
And I was up in Michigan, where I lived all my life and grew up. And I had, wanted to take this road trip and go to this conference. And so I had planned to go. And then like 2 weeks before, we were all in our Zoom group together. Another woman in the group was going to the conference, we're all talking about it. And I kept hearing, he's going, right? And we would ask him, and he's like, no, I'm not going to that. I'm not doing that, blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks before, he's like, I guess I'm going. I'm being told I'm going,
well,
right?
Because she's asking me, she's like, well, Ivan, are you going to Sedona? And I'm over here. No, I don't think so. I mean, what the hell do I got to do in Sedona? No. I have other circumstances where I really don't feel like spending the money to go over there, because if I would go, it would be a road trip. And here's Melissa. Ivan, are you sure? I'm like, no, yeah, I'm sure. I'm not going to Sedona. There's no reason for me to go to Sedona. And all of a sudden, I get it. First off, yes, I'm very clairaudient. And a lot of times, I don't get the message clairaudiently. I get the feeling. So I go from, yeah, no, I'm not going to Sedona. why are you, first off, why do you keep saying am I going to Sedona? Then I look up and I feel my higher selves. I'm like, wait, why is she smiling and why are you guys smiling? Then it goes into, you're kidding me. I'm going to Sedona. And the smiles go from to. That's when I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Sedona. Apparently, I'm the last one to know that I'm going to go road trip. So
that drive for each of us was like a 3-day drive, unless you're going to do like crazy psycho driving for 25 hours across the country. So we left on the same day, right? He leaves Florida, I leave Michigan, and we talk a lot on the phone as we're going there, right?
Yeah.
And the first night we each stayed somewhere separate, right? The second night we met in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right.
And so that was our first time actually meeting in person.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd been going through what he called lady training at the time.
Yeah.
Totally different story. Just, really being the divine masculine, embodying that more with women, letting go of the distortions that are placed out there into the world for men, sexualizing women, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had talked about this a lot on the phone, so I knew this, right? And so we met. He arrived at the hotel before me, and we met there in person, and then we walked across the street to a restaurant there and had dinner and sat and talked for a few hours. And then went back to each of our hotel rooms for the night because we were going to drive into Sedona the next day.
Together, yeah.
And it had been a long day. We're tired. We've been on the road for 2 days and whatever, right? So, we should tell the Camp Verde, the Google story. Let's back this up a moment. So after he decides that he is going to go to Sedona, I had booked a hotel in Camp Verde, which I've never been to that area, so I don't know. But when I looked, just in Sedona, like the hotels, they're very pricey. Mm-hmm. And because there was a conference, there wasn't a lot available, like the more reasonable stuff was gone. Mm-hmm. And Camp Verde is like 20 minutes or so away, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at Camp Verde online and I'm like, oh, there's like, some nice stuff around there. Okay, I'll get a hotel there, right? It's more reasonable because we're going to be there for, was it 3 nights we spent there?
3 nights, yeah.
3 nights and 4 days. Okay. So I tell him staying in Camp Verde, and what did you say to me?
Okay, first off, this was when I was, as eventually we started talking on the phone, not so much the Zoom. So the first time I start talking to her, because I'm like, she's already talking to me of just like many attractive women, or many women that carry themselves very well. I'll say it that way. Get hit on by a lot of guys, and she has no issues in the men's department in that respect, right? So because of where she's grown up and because of how chauvinistic and how disrespectful a lot of guys are, or can see a attractive woman, I mean, you can look and admire someone that is very well put together and carries themselves and be like, damn, wow, she looks really good. But because of how heavily her experience has been with males as far as sexualizing her, I didn't want to be another one of those schmucks. So when we first started talking on the phone, I'm used to talking to another friend that I had built a rapport, and I know how to loosen up and whatever. So because I'm like, all right, walking on eggshells here, how do I talk to her without making her feel like, by me calling her sweetheart or deep. First off, I don't call you dear, but anyways, any endearing term like hun or whatever, because that's just something that I've done just because that's just the way I am. I was like, okay, she has all this going for her. She's a no-nonsense personality. She can be a ball buster, and she can hang in with the roughest, toughest of the dudes. Just saying. So she says, yeah, I got a hotel over at Camp Verde. And I'm like, really? And yeah, there's a lot of things hiking to do and blah, blah. and me being a Dorkosaurus, I'm like, okay, so how do you know what things are there to do? And I'm like, oh, you're such an idiot, Ivan. That's such a stupid question to ask. And of course, being who she is, she's like, well, Ivan, there's this thing called Google, and when you type things in, and that's what literally broke the ice with me. I'm like, no, she did not go there. Oh, really? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking okay? You want to be a smartass? I can be a smartass. Good. And all of a sudden, the S bombs and the F bombs start coming out just because I'm like, she's willing to bust my balls that way. I like this girl. I like her a lot. She can be all love light. All she wants, all fairies and unicorns and all this lovey-dovey stuff. But the fact that she's willing to bust my chops, I'm like, she's a little bit all right.
Let's say at this point, he was still calling me his sister all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Love me like a sister, sister from another mister, star sister, 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 sister. And so we meet in Albuquerque. We have dinner. We drive into Sedona the next day, right?
Yes.
And we get to Camp Verde, and we're both starving. It's like lunchtime, and Ivan being Mexican, we found there's like the town is small, and like every other restaurant's a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
So we chose one which we should give a shout out to it on here if people are ever in the Camp Verde area, because it was awesome.
Gabriella's, yeah.
Yes, in
Mexican
Camp Verde.
restaurant.
Ooh, it was good. Owned by some women. It was all women, sisters. They were sisters, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
might as well call her Aunt Gabriella, because yeah. The funny thing is, we're arriving there, and I'm still like, okay, so I'm not sexualizing her. She's a beloved friend. She's awesome. She's very intuitive. She's all that in a bag of chips, Skittles on the side. No, that tastes the rainbow. But we go in there, and of course she orders her food. I order her food. Then all of a sudden they mess up. I think it was my drink or something. Something. Anyways,
Yeah, I don't remember what
I
it
go
was.
back to the cashier, and
they're speaking Spanish,
Yeah,
by the way. I've been speaking Spanish with them.
I'm speaking Spanish and what
So
have
I'm
you.
like, whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know. I know like 5 words, so go on.
Right. So I'm just like, okay, well, could I get a little bit of that or whatever? She was like, oh, okay, here's for you and your girlfriend, and I laugh. I'm like, no, señorita, no es mi novia. No, she's not my girlfriend. Es una amiga. She's my friend. We're just friends. And the lady's like, oh, is that what you're gonna call it? She's your friend. She's your friend. You sure she's just your friend?
And he tells me this, right? When he
Right.
comes back to the table.
And the lady was like, boy, you're not fooling me. I know who she is. She's your girlfriend. Don't try to be all coy. Like, oh, there's nothing going on between both of you. It's quite obvious. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? She's my sister from another mister.
We had such good chemistry that we didn't even realize it for what it was. One of the things that we had both come to, because I was at the door was closing behind me on the relationship I'd been in. And he had already come out of that karmic relationship that he was in. And something we had both discussed was like this whole looking for your person, right? That we were just done with that. And we had both said, you know what? I could live the rest of my life alone and I would be just fine.
And
Other than being in like a bad or distorted relationship, I don't need someone to complete me. I don't need someone to like go on a spiritual journey of self-discovery or whatever. Like, I will be fine to be single, right?
And me being single for many moons and not in a relationship, I'm like, well, I hear you, sister. Personally, I'd rather you find, true love and romance in that sense. But I hear you, sister. Anyways, I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And it was kind of a well, I could have seen potential with this girl, but she wants to be single for the rest of her life. That ship sailed. Oh, well, she's my sister from another mister. It's okay. She's just my awesome sister. Right? So I was going to say something about something there. I had already gotten out of that karmic relationship for a few months, and my higher self was like, it's time to move on. Now start searching just put it out there, turn on your beacon that you want to find your person, and don't search for it. When you search for it and you're looking for certain specific things, you're looking for certain specific patterns that you have done in the past, and those patterns that you've done in the past have not served you, and there's a reason why you put it out there to the universe and you let it go. When you push for it, you're forcing it, and you're not allowing the right person, the right dynamic, the right manifestation to come towards you, because you're forcing it. You're not allowing the universe to align you and bring it to you, and it becomes effortless, because she was not looking for anyone. I was not looking for anyone. I was just on a road trip and meeting a phenomenal friend, and we were going to go to this conference in Arizona, which, again, her higher self had already given her a heads up. You're going. My higher self didn't give me a heads up until Miss Delivery person over here is like, hey, by the way, I think you're going. And then me validating with my higher self, and my higher self saying, yeah, you need to go there. There are certain pieces, aspects, whatever, that your soul needs to pick up there in Arizona for both of us. And at the time, being single, okay, she's gonna do her thing, I'm gonna do my thing, and when we hang out, but I already knew that we were going there together as a unit of sorts, because my higher self told me, you are literally gonna play bodyguard to her. Wherever she goes, you go. So just get in the mindset of, that's what you're gonna be for her when she goes there. And I'm like, okay.
We had a lot of snafus in Arizona, because after we ate lunch, and we spent a couple hours together eating lunch, right? Took our time.
Yeah.
We had separate hotels.
Right.
So we went to our hotels, and those were a total disaster.
Both of them.
Not even going to go into that, but they were a disaster. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
So maybe an hour or two after separating, we had both found hotel rooms that were left available in Sedona, loaded our cars back up and split, and we're following each other into Sedona to stay there. So we ended up staying in Sedona. And the next day, we still had another day before we went to the conference. So the next day was kind of like a free day. And he went to Bell Rock, and I went to Thunder Mountain, and we each separately went hiking and doing our own thing. And then that night, before sunset, because this was in the springtime, right? So it was starting to get, warmer and stayed light longer. And we talked on the phone, and our hotels weren't that far from each other, like maybe a 5-10 minute walk, if that. So we're like, hey, you want to meet up and we'll go take a walk?
We're like, sure.
So he kept saying that he was at a different hotel than he was. He kept confusing the names. So I walk the opposite direction of where he's actually staying, and I walk over to this hotel. I sat out front of this hotel for like a half hour waiting for him to come out, right? I didn't have my cell phone with me. I left it in the room, and I'm waiting for him. He walked over to my hotel and was out there waiting for me. And
for the same amount of time.
So he ended up going back to his. I went back to mine. I was disappointed, but I was like, oh, well, I guess like we're not meant to meet up. We'll see each other tomorrow at this conference, right? So then we talked on the phone, realized it was a total mix-up, whatever. It's dark and like bedtime at this point, right? So the next day, we each drove to the conference separately, but went to this conference and spent the day there. And I don't know, 5 hours or something we were
About
there.
5 hours,
and we left before it ended, and we decided to go to Thunder Mountain and take a hike together. And we were both just kind of fried out. So he actually, that night, our last night there, he had gotten a room in the same hotel that I was in.
Right.
They had a room become available because it was a Sunday night, so, people are checking out. It wasn't available when we first went into town, on Friday. So he got a room at the same hotel, and I took a shower, and I was just like done. And
we both were.
We were both done.
fried. We were fried.
And so then he came down to my room, and he brought me a gift that was a piece of artwork that he had purchased the day before in an art gallery there. And it was...
Actually, I had ordered it off of Karen Ellsworth.
Okay.
Look her website up. She does guides what's it called? She does illustration of your guides or one of your guides that wishes to communicate with you. One of my guides happened to be, thank you, happened to be an Andromedan being. So this beautiful being from the Andromeda star system, and a beautiful channeled message, just of my star family, of course, and it's beautiful. And on top of that, I had ordered 2 other prints from Karen Ellsworth website, and it was very, very zen. Had a lot of the chakras. It reminded me of a lot of the yoga practices, and her being a yoga instructor, I was thinking that here's a phenomenal friend who I had such a fun time, even though I had just met her and we didn't spend that much time together. But the time that we did spend, I felt just a very beautiful, kindred, loving connection to this beautiful soul who I kept on calling this is my sister, I love her. And I'm pretty sure every single time I said that, my higher self was constantly cringing like, you really should stop saying that. God dang it. But anyways, eventually I had 2 prints of the same one, and I looked at one of the prints, and my higher self tells me one of those is yours, one of those is hers. And I was like, really? I'm already shot. I'm already burned out from the event, the energies and all that. I'm exhausted. And my higher self says, no, that is hers. Take it to her now. I tried knocking on the door. She didn't answer. She happened to be in the shower. So I was like, okay, I'll give it to her tomorrow morning because we're going to depart, and still she'll get it. And as I lay there for about 20 minutes, all of a sudden my higher self says, call her. I called the phone because she wasn't answering the text messages. She picks up. Then I tell her, are you available? Because I need to drop something off that I have something that's yours. And I never tell her what it is. So whenever I gave her the gift, which is a beautiful illustration of a female, galactic in nature.
That now hangs over our bed.
Yes. It has the overlay of the chakras, the beautiful purples and greens and blues, and just very, very mystical, very high frequency type of portrait that whenever I gave it to her, I was like, I see this print and I'm literally seeing you in this print. And that's what it spoke to me from my soul. Not my heart, from my soul.
And then he made me cry.
No, you made yourself cry, love. You made yourself cry just because.
It was so sweet and the most beautiful gift from the heart. Like, it was just such a beautiful gift. Other than from my child, it was like the best gift from the heart I'd ever received. And so he stayed for a few minutes and then went off to his room. And then the next morning we departed early, and he was going to go up, to Montana and Washington State. Like, he had planned to go do some other stuff before he went home to Florida. And so he went that way, and I took off and started taking my course back towards Michigan. So, 2 days later, I arrive in Michigan, and he went up and, visited a friend up, in that region, and went over to Washington, and we communicated while he was there. What I did find was that when he arrived at his destination, I arrived home. I wanted to give him time because he was going to visit somebody and,
right.
Had other things going on. And it was really difficult for me to separate myself and be like, I'll catch up with you when I catch up. Go have a good time. Like, I genuinely missed him. And it was like, wow, that's interesting, because I don't have a clinging to friends, clinginess type of thing. That's never been my personality. Mm-hmm. And I don't do that with people. Mm-hmm. I'm very respectful of, well, get on with yourself and do what you need to do. And right. I'll see you when I see you, no hard feelings. Right. People have lives, right? And so he was up there for a few days. And then he says, well, I was looking at my map home and realized I can come across the top of the country and I can stop and I can pick up 75,
which goes directly straight
right
down.
in Michigan where you live, and then go straight down,
To where I live.
home to Florida. So, do you mind if I stop and visit? So I'm like, well, sure, stop and visit, right?
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
So when we departed from Arizona, for whatever reason, I actually wish that we had another day that I could spend with her, because I already had so much love emanating out of me for Melissa, and I viewed her as just a very beautiful friend. And I don't typically, just like her with the whole clinginess, I'm not that way. If someone is going off on their way, okay, go off on your way. You got things to do. People have lives, and that's that. But I felt a deep sense of sadness when we departed. Happiness, because I have a phenomenal, beautiful friend that I finally met in person. But a sadness because we were departing. She was going back to her home to handle personal business, that she had some epiphanies as she was working through her own process of clearing and healing herself, because she removed herself from that environment and was totally disconnected, which created that space for her to view it from a removed perspective and see what she needed to address in her life.
I went home and literally told the person that had been living with me still at this point, yeah, I'm selling my house and we need to go our own separate ways. That's what I decided while I was gone, right? And I drew the firm line in the sand and saw my clear path forward. Like I finally...
You saw that pathway and the motivation to move forward to that.
Yeah.
On my end, it was literally me saying, God damn it, I wish we could live closer, because I really enjoyed being around her, our dynamic, our energy, just as friends, because we were just friends at that time. Right, and we just enjoyed each other's company, and it wasn't I'm in love with you, or none of that. It was just like, oh my God, I love Melissa. She freaking rocks, and I have not, and I feel a lot of people don't really have. When you have a connection with a person, even if you just met them, if it's that intense where you're like, oh my God, I think I found my new best friend. And that's what it felt like to me. And because that's how she felt like to me, I did not want to depart from her. So whenever I went to Montana, then to Washington, and on my way back to Washington, because I thought I was going to be living and moving over there, because hence for my higher selves. But anyways, it was energetic work, no big deal. On my way back, I'm looking at my path down to Florida, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, path down to Florida means I got to take this highway to this highway to this highway to this highway, and I prefer more of a straight shot. And if more of a straight shot, to me, it's a lot easier, just this way and that way and done. So whenever I looked at the paths crossing across the United States on the top and hit Detroit, because 75 literally runs down the west coast of Florida where I lived, I asked Melissa if it would be cool if I would stop by, because I had nothing better else to do. And I was like, and I can actually spend more time with my friend, who I love dearly. It was during a certain gateway anyways. Then my higher self was like, I was like, ooh, that sounds like a good idea. So whenever she gave me the go-ahead, the green flag to go, I'm driving excited. I'm gonna meet up with my buddy, my friend Melissa, and that's my mindset. The first day driving eastward, and then it shifts from I'm gonna go visit my friend Melissa to your whole purpose in life is to get to Detroit by Friday. Get there now, and I'm like, okay, what the hell shifted him? All right, driving. But anyways, I end up arriving there, and I met a beautiful a lady named Paula who does breath work, who's been doing breath work with me to help clear a lot of stuff within my stuff and within myself, but that's something else. And I end up spending more time with Melissa, and we had such a good time with what we did energetically with the ceremony and stuff via our guidance. And what I've
We
noticed...
spent all day together on Saturday.
Yes.
And then you left on Sunday.
Right. Which, and that thing, I love her. I was so high, and I understand why people...
Not on drugs high.
I was going there.
Okay.
I was so high on energy, and now I understand why people resort to drugs to reach that.
He had done a ceremony with my friend Paula, our friend Paula now,
Yeah.
and myself. We had done an energetic ceremony Saturday morning.
So I have never experienced so much energy flow through my body, and I'm just like, ooh. Meanwhile, these two ladies are just giggling away, and I'm like, I feel like the sober adult. I'm like, really, guys? Really? I guess I'm driving you guys home. But eventually, I did not notice that as the day went on, I was gradually getting more and more high to where I'm like, ooh, I'm floaty. Ooh, this is weird. I don't know if I like the sensation, right? But throughout that whole day, eventually she drops me off, and for whatever reason, I just could not stop hugging her. I'm like, I just love you. I don't know why. I just love you. And as a friend, right? Nothing romantic. And the whole time I just couldn't stop hugging her. And it was very obvious because whenever she dropped me off at the hotel where I was staying, where she picked me up, because I was still road tripping, and that's where my vehicle was at. She drops me off, drives off. I enter the hotel, and one of the ladies in the front was like, have a good day. And I'm like, thanks. And all of a sudden I turn over, and I can feel one of my other aspects that got a little pissy, a little catty. One of those, no, she did not just try to hit on you after that love exchange with Melissa. Who the hell does this think she is, right? And all of a sudden I'm tired, and I'm like, no, gonna be nice. If you guys are constantly telling me to be nice, you need to be nice. Because I felt some cattiness from another one of my aspects.
Well,
anyways. Yes.
I was very excited that he was showing up that day on that Friday. And I did take him to meet Paula, and then I had a yoga class to teach. So he drove separately. So he stayed over at Paula's and got to know her, and I left to go teach yoga. And then we didn't reconnect that night. But what happened was when you get so far on your path, you look at everything when it comes up. You're like, I have to dissect this. There's something here for me. Emotions are great teachers.
Yes. And
that I had to leave him at Paula's, and then that I couldn't reconnect with him. Like, we missed each other that evening. I was so disappointed, and my inner child was just like a pouty hot mess. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is absolutely ridiculous. You know what I mean? And so I started to sit down and write him an email that was going to be just a letter to him over the 3 days that we spent together. And I'd send it off, maybe, I'm thinking, right? When he leaves, right? So that Saturday, after we spent the whole day together, and it was nightfall, it was dark by the time I dropped him off at his hotel, I went home, and
you had a profound experience.
I went home, and I made something to eat, and the person that I'd been partnered with, that I was like, okay, we got to go our own separate ways. This had been like the week before, and I'd already started looking at what I was going to do to sell the house, and I made some food, and I sit down with him and start talking to him, and I'm sitting there, and like, I can feel my bottom lip wanting to tremble and cry. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know what's going on here, right? And so I finish my food, and I'm like, I have to go for a walk. And I take my dog and I go for a walk. And I'm out taking a walk, and I'm crying my eyes out, and I'm like, it was missing being with Ivan that day, but it was more of what it brought to the surface for me, that I realized that as a woman, and my inner child combined, like, I had never felt the love and safety and home in my heart and in my soul and my beingness that I felt when I was with him, and didn't know where to put that. I'm like, this is bizarre. I don't know what to do with this.
Right.
I went home, took a shower, cried my eyes out in the shower, and sat down and did day 2 in my email letter to Ivan, and went to bed. And so the next day I got up, and usually I like to get up in the morning, maybe meditate first, depending on how I feel. I'm not a regimented morning person, really. And sometimes, have a tea or a coffee, just whatever, right? And so I got up that morning, and it was like, and I literally hear, go get dressed, put yourself together, fix your hair, brush your teeth. I'm like, okay. So I go into the bathroom, I bypass everything except a glass of water, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna and then he calls and he's like, can I come by? Just as I literally finish brushing my teeth and shut the bathroom light off, and I'm done in there. I'm like, no way, this is funny. So he comes over, and he stays for about an hour or so before he gets on the road, and visits with me. We take the dog for a walk together, and he's saying goodbye to me. I'm standing there. I'm like, I do not want him to leave. I don't want him to leave. Don't leave me here. Take me with you, right? That's how I feel, right? And I'm trying not to cry. And what's interesting is I'm trying not to cry, and we're standing under a big tree out in my front yard, and it starts to rain. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the sky is
crying for you.
The elementals are crying for me, right? And he keeps hugging me, which is making it even more difficult. And so finally he gets in his car and he leaves, and I spent the rest of the day, I finished writing out, the third day of the email, and what I realized and what I was feeling, just being open and raw. And then I'm like, okay, this is my friend. He calls me his sister all the time. I'm ending a relationship, moving, selling my house. He's, doing his own thing, figuring his life out. We live at opposite ends of the country. I don't know what to do with this, but I'm going to be honest. I am going to let the energy move. I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to keep it secret from him, because that's a distortion that I don't want to have, because I love him as a friend. I honor him, and I'm just not going to hide it. I'll put it out there. And even if he's like, oh, that's sweet, you cute little thing, you that's very nice, and maybe we should talk about that and figure out why you feel that way, I'm still going to put it out there, right?
Well, that's her side. My side was, yes, we did walk around and what have you, and I could tell that she was tearing up, which I was like, oh, don't cry. I'll give you a hug. No need to be sad. I'll give you another hug. Hugs all around. Why? Because I love you. Because you're my buddy. You're my friend. You're my pal. You're my BFFFF. Best friend for freaking life. Anyways, dork. So I finally say my goodbyes, and I'm looking at the time. My heart wants to hang out because I enjoy being around her and love her dearly as a friend. But my mind, my egoic mind, is like, Ivan, you need to get on the road. You need to get back home, because I was already traveling a little over 3 weeks on the road tripping, and I just wanted to get back home. I just wanted to have my own space. I wanted to rest. I wanted to recuperate, because I was feeling quite tired by then.
By the time he arrived in Detroit from when we separated in Arizona, it had been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He'd been out west for 2 weeks still.
Yeah. And it was all because it was a road trip that I was following via my guides. Wherever they said, drive here, stay here, da-da-da-da-da-da. Because not apparently, it's obvious to me, I needed to be in certain locations so that my higher selves could do work energetically with the regions, whatever that may be. Working with the lands, balancing, etc., right? Just like we all human beings do all the time, even though we're not aware we do that. But anyways, whenever I gave her a hug and I got on the road and I'm driving, I feel this immense amount of love just burst out of my heart chakra, my heart. And the whole time I'm like, what's going on? And of course, it's nothing negative. It's an immense amount of love that just kept emanating, and the whole time I'm like, what's going on with me? I'm driving over here holding my heart, and I'm talking to my higher self. I'm like, hey guys, I know you're there. Don't ignore me. What's this? What's going on here? Why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like my heart just exploded with love? Not exploded, no, with love. And all I get is smiles. I'm like, anything? This is weird. Yes, and of course she's on my mind because I just said goodbye to my friend. And I'm like, oh my God, I just love her. I have so much love for her, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. She's a beautiful friend, a beloved friend that I love immensely, and I don't know what to do with it. And my heart is just bursting with so much feeling, so much energy, so much unconditional love, emotion. That's the best way that I could describe it. And I'm asking my higher selves, what's going on here? Am I okay? Am I having a heart attack? Should I pull over? What's going on? You sure I'm not having a heart attack? Okay, my left arm isn't going. No, it feels fine. It feels fine. I'm still driving. I'm good. But what's up with this? What do I do with this? Well, I know what to do with this. It stays in my body. Otherwise, I go right. But what's going on here? And the whole time, I just get smiles. I'm like, okay, how come she gets communication with her higher selves, and her higher selves are very blah, 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 and give her a lot of details? I ask you guys, and you just smile at me. You're not helping me. I'm trying to figure, what is this? So whenever I received that email, which I was excited for, and I was nagging her, I'm like, do you mind sending it now? And she's like, no, I'll send it later. Eventually, once I got to my hotel room and I read the letter, and I'm like, you are shitting me. Are you kidding me? That's all the emotion, feeling, everything that was poured in that electronic mail. I felt it here tremendously, and it literally resonated so freaking heavily that I had to text her back eventually. And I was like, I need to talk to you, because that what you just said via that email is the same way I feel about you, and I don't even know what to do with it. Number one, she's wrapping up that phase of her life, and I myself am not looking for anyone for a relationship. I just had met her a few months prior, so again, because she was wrapping things up in her life, I was like, well, I'm not going to pursue anyone that isn't fully separated in that sense, right? Because I thought that she was still coordinating and working that out with her previous person that she had a relationship with. So in that sense, I was confused, very confused, and I kept on asking, what is this? What? I acknowledge that I have a lot of immense amount of love for Melissa, but yet I don't know what this is, because I've never experienced that type of spontaneous explosion of emotion within myself towards a person ever.
And so unexpected.
Right.
Like it just happened. We were not like forcing it, looking for it,
right,
hoping for it, wanting it. Not even asking ourselves like, oh, could this be the one?
Right.
Or this person's, they're intuitive, they're blah, 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 like me. Ooh, it was none of that. Although I will go back and say here, and I've shared this with you, that there was a few things where, for instance, when we were sitting at that conference together, you probably can't see it on camera, but he has beautiful lips. Like the kind of lips where you're like, oh, I could kiss those lips forever. And he was sitting next to me, and I kept looking at him and thinking, gosh, he has nice lips. And then I would catch myself and be like, why are you looking at his lips? Like, okay, I guess I'm just admiring that. If there was something like potential here, I'd be like, wow, those are really nice lips, right? Just as a woman, and, just looking and being like, oh, right. And, so little things like that like should have been indicators, but I didn't they just went right over my head, wasn't getting it at all. So after he left, and after we shared that letter and he went back home to Florida, I was in the process of putting my house on the market with my realtor, and cleaning up the vestiges of what was left of the, my old life, right, so to speak.
Clearing that energy.
And we spoke on the phone a lot. Like every day in the evening, we spoke a lot. We did make a lot of discoveries just about, who we've been to each other, the lifetimes we've shared together, that we've been partners in many lifetimes, that we're coming together to continue work that we've started or planned, etc.
For this lifetime.
Right? That we held a lot for each other. So right before I had everything in line to go, basically, to put my house on the market. So before I did that, we decided, well, if we're going to actually see if this is like right for us, we're going to meet up. We're going to find a place that's in the middle between Michigan and Florida. We're going to find a city, and we're going to meet up, and we're going to spend, a couple of days there together.
And see if we annoy the piss out of each other.
And really see what happens. So we met in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a beautiful, romantic, amazing city. And if you ever get the chance to go there, if you have not been, awesome.
Do it.
So we meet in Chattanooga. We decided to share a room. And, it's like, hey, okay, we got a suite with a king bed. There's a pull-out sofa. If it's like really bad, or like he farts all night in his sleep, or whatever,
really?
We can, you can always get another room. You can always, make other arrangements, but we'll see what happens. And so we ended up extending the trip by 2 days. We were there for 4 days. We stayed 6.
Why did we extend?
Well, the first morning we were supposed to leave. The night before, I was crying. I did not want to leave this man. I did not want to be away from him. And it wasn't that we could never be together again or anything like that. It was literally like,
your inner child was not happy.
I just found you, and I do not want to be without you at this point. And so we went to breakfast the next morning after we checked out of our hotel, and then we lingered over a brunch that almost went into lunchtime. And then it was like, do you want to stay another day? Okay, it'll work out in our schedules. We'll stay another day. And then we stayed another day.
Well, it's funny because we had already checked out, and our vehicles were packed and what have you.
Then we went back to the same hotel and stayed.
Right. Well, just the fact that it was also, for me, being single for so long, I'm like, either one or two things. It's either going to work out very great, or after a couple hours, I'm going to be annoyed, and I'm going to be like, oh my God, I got to get away from her. Yeah, I'm going to go to the store and get some drinks or something because I'm dehydrated.
It flowed. We did everything together. There was no, this person gets on my nerves. Like, there wasn't an argument. It was so effortless and just beautiful.
Still is.
Yeah, we liked the same things. We enjoyed the same things. There was no
bantering whatsoever.
It just was so effortless.
I guess with that, as far as a divine partnership, it's literally very, if any, very minimal effort. It just you just complement each other. And granted, Melissa share a lot of things in common, quite obviously, but there's a lot of things that is very much in the wheelhouse of Melissa, and other things that are very much in my wheelhouse, right? So as an example, she is a yoga instructor. She's a yoga teacher, which is something truly beneficial for me, because whenever she teaches yoga, I've been wanting to do yoga, and I've thought, well, I should join somewhere. But the fact that she already does that, and following her lead, teaching me how to do this modality, and helping myself with everything that entails with the body, the energies, how they flow, etc., etc. And also in my side of the house, as far as my wheelhouse, I'm very mechanically inclined as a technician, whatever. Where she's like, well, I don't know anything about that, but I'm like, don't worry, babe, I got it. I'll take care of it. So we're constantly complimenting each other, and that was just one of the very basic examples of where She knows a lot about how to run a business. I have no freaking clue. Yet there's other aspects of my life that I have learned where she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, Ivan. You got it. Take it. Don't worry about it. I know you know what the heck you're talking about, and I trust you, and vice versa. So it's not a force, and it's not a compromise either. That's what's very, very shocking to me, because I always hear people in relationships talking about, well, you have to compromise something. And what I've been noticing, and just how it shifted from a friendship to a relationship, because it didn't even come to a point where I was like, well, Melissa, I'd like to ask you out to be my girlfriend, blah, blah. We were pretty much just like, you had a heart explosion of just love that she didn't even know was there, and vice versa. I was like, are we an item or are we not? Are we like friends or are we like dating? What are we?
Yeah, we did it so arse upwards. So we were married, let's see, 3 months after the trip to Chattanooga. It became, before we even went to Chattanooga, I was out walking my dog one night and I'm like, he's my husband.
And she didn't share
He's
this
my
with
husband.
me.
He's my person. And I was married many years ago when I was younger, and that was like 20 years ago. And at that point in my life, I had been like, I will never get married again. I am not getting married. There's no way. There's no way I will ever get married. And I was very independent.
Very.
And so the fact that it was like, he's my husband, I was like, that's very odd and strange, and what's taken over my body right now, because that's not something that would ever like
Come out of your
a
lips.
year ago. Before that, you would have asked me that, I'd have been like, you're so full of crap. I will never say that about anyone ever. Don't care. So just that alone. And then after Chattanooga, we just like, it was like everything fell into place. He went back to his previous employer, came to Georgia, where we live now, found a place, like everything fell in line. I put my house on the market and had the buyer the same day it went on the market.
That is true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Sold the house, cleared that out in like record time, and was down here, and it was just like everything just flowed together so naturally. We got married outside in the park, Forsyth Park in Savannah.
Downtown Savannah.
Even that flowed so nice. Like we decided to use a company called Elope to Savannah, which they specialize in elopement weddings. And because, it's about us, it's not about the family and the people and everybody else. The ceremony's intimate, it's about us, right?
Right.
And
that was our choice.
He had a suit that his guides had told him to purchase.
When
he went on the road trip to Washington, they told him to buy a nice suit and to not spare any expense. And so he hadn't even worn it yet.
The irony about that is the trip to Sedona, my guides, my higher self was like, you need a suit. I'm like, yes, I do need a suit. If I'm going to get interviewed for a, high paying position, I might want to present myself in the most, appropriate manner. So my guys are like, buy a suit and don't be cheap about it. You have plenty of funds when you sold your house, so don't be cheap about it and don't get sticker shocked. Okay, I go and I'm thinking, why am I buying the suit? For the job that you're going to be, the suit is for the job that you're going to be applying to. So
my husband. We realized that recently, that's the job.
Get it? Yeah. So all of a sudden, in my road trip to Arizona, because I was thinking the job is going to be in Washington at Blue Origin or right, because I've been in aviation and what have you. My guys are like, take the suit with you. Okay, so pack up all your stuff as if you're moving. I packed all my stuff, and I'm traveling with nothing but clothes, which I'm a light traveler anyways, and I've always lived minimalistically in that sense, right? Especially if I don't know where I'm going to land. So I have all that. I have a suit in the back of my vehicle. I'm traveling. I have a suit in my vehicle when I meet her for the first time. She doesn't know I have that. But anyways, we're driving around and what have you, and as things transpired and we come together and we see this friendship turn into a relationship, turn into now she's remembering experiences, I'm remembering experiences from this. Atlantis is a very popular flavor here. Okay, so we start remembering some of that just as an example, and other stuff, other lifetimes, other interactions that we've participated with each other, whether I was male or female, or and vice versa, where we are a couple as well. When we got married, I was reminiscing and thinking, you guys told me that I need to buy a suit for the most high frequency, the highest paid job that would put me in an environment that would be the most, prosperous and harmonious, and that I would enjoy my job, and this suit will help me get that job. Unbeknownst to me, that suit that I bought, I actually bought it for my wedding. The job is to become a husband of
a partner,
Melly Bell over here. So, and whenever I shared that with her, I'm like, so this is what you guys were talking about. You need a suit for that job, not knowing that my job is to become her beloved husband.
Everything lined up so perfectly. It just lined up so perfectly. Even when we booked our wedding date with Elope to Savannah, and then it was like, oh, well, that's next week. So I have to get a dress, right? And my higher self's like, go to Macy's tomorrow.
And the fairies.
We go to Macy's, and
the fairies were very excited.
I grabbed some dresses from like the formal wear section and take the dresses. The first dress I chose, even though I took other dresses in, the very first dress I picked up off the rack.
That's the one.
Was the one I got married in. And everything just lined up so beautifully and perfectly for us. Right as we arrived to have our ceremony, the park is full of gorgeous trees, and they have Spanish moss hanging on them. It's just beautiful there. And it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and it's sunny out and in the 70s, and just beautiful outside, maybe 80, something like that. And a big, beautiful hawk, a red-tailed hawk, came and landed right on this low-hanging branch
where we were going to have our ceremony.
At the tree where we were going to stand, and we were getting ready to stand and have our ceremony. So our very first wedding photo, because the company is a photographer and then someone who's ordained to perform the ceremony, she does all the photos, and they're a beautiful company. Can't say enough good stuff about them.
Yeah.
The very first photo in our whole wedding album is the hawk on the tree branch. She was actually able to capture the hawk. So we had the hawk show up. We had a beautiful ceremony. Everything has literally just
effortless, really,
flowed together for us so well. And we spend a lot of time together. I had to leave town and go back to Detroit to move my mom recently, and that week that I was gone, I missed him and missed home immensely. I think he got cranky without me. I'm just gonna put that out there. But we are just such a fluid, flowing partnership, and spend our time together in. It never is strained. Sometimes it's like, oh, I'm gonna go in this room of the house and I want to go to my desk because I'm writing a book and I'm working on that, or I'm gonna do whatever, and he's working on his stuff or doing whatever he's doing. But we just flow back and forth together and enjoy each other so much. There's also the supportive part of assisting each other in your healing and being that support for each other that just comes so naturally. And that each person is committed to their own growth and healing.
Right.
And brings that, and that you support one another in doing so, and that you are better, more unified, stronger for it. It's everything from our inner children just love each other so much. She is just so enamored with little Ivan, wants to hold his hand and hug him and pick dandelions and give them to them and everything else, right? And then the adult versions of us,
right,
as well, and how we work and flow together. So that would definitely be
just an example.
What we would say is, our experience with divine partnership and
the karmic relationships.
the difference of a karmic relationship. So,
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to add, love?
Just the fact that we both have our own way of being, even though we are different in many ways. And you said it best when we first met, when we had lunch in Gabriella's, is why do you want to find a twin flame? Why not find a divine complement? But because we
did have that conversation.
Yeah. And whenever she said divine complement, I'm like, that sounds more appropriate than twin flame, just because you're constantly complementing each other. There are certain things that she may not particularly care to do, which I care to do and I enjoy doing, and vice versa. And let's be honest, there's some things where both of us are like, we're not doing that. Get the F out of here with that mess. No, get out, shoot. And other stuff where she's like, what do you think of this? And it might be an experience or something that I've never tried before that I'm like, I don't know about it, but I'll give it a shot. And there's times where I try certain things that I'm like, maybe not so much. She's like, okay, well, this is more my flavor, and that's fine. But we're constantly being very respectful towards each other, and we're not, talking noise to each other, tossing shade to each other. Well, you're this or you're that, and believe you me being the shut up, the drama queen of the relationship, sassiness. And her being patient with me, and vice versa. When she has her moments of discomfort or frustration that she needs to vent, I just stay neutral. I'm like, okay, well, let it all out. And I say this jokingly now: let it all out, sister. Don't keep it inside. Even though we're obviously not brother and sister. Just saying. But just the fact that I can say, let it all out, sister, and she doesn't get offended, where other women would be like, sister, I'm your damn wife. Oh, you my damn wife now. You're not my wife, you my damn wife. Anyways.
Can you see why I love him? The goofy moments. I'm just saying. The goofy moments. So.
You want to go country? You want to go ghetto? we want to go straight up from Latin hood? Barrio? It doesn't matter. We have a lot of fun. We do. and that's the key thing. Just that you find someone that is very patient and is willing to participate with you, and it doesn't matter what it is. Even if shopping, it doesn't matter. Whatever you want, crocheting. I'll be the swan, whatever. I'll be your model.
We grocery shop together. And he does dishes. So I like to cook and I like to eat at home because, eating out, we eat a clean and organic, type of diet. But I like to cook. He does dishes and he'll be like, can I help you in the kitchen? Sometimes he helps me in there because, I don't mind doing the cooking. I like it. I hate the cleanup, but he does the dishes all the time. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's perfect. And if he cooked, I would do the dishes. But,
and sometimes, I'll be honest, there's times where with her, I just say, go relax. And because we are very intuitive and we have many gifts that eventually we wish to participate with more people, whether it's Beyond Quantum Healing Sessions, which you can reach out to us via Unity4Gaia at Gmail. And we both do the sessions together. She's got many beautiful gifts. I have many beautiful gifts. I have we both have a lot of shamanic energy, but there's certain things that I've been discovering with myself that the beauty about having a partner like her, or let me just say, the beauty about having a partner that's willing to participate on something that they don't even know what they're getting into, but they're willing to be a good sport about it, has allowed me to discover more about my own innate abilities and vice versa. You know, there's times where I'll be talking to her higher self, or she'll be talking to my higher self, or we'll have just an overall conversation, or she'll see energies and blah blah, based on if I'm doing things like this and I'm just moving energies or what have you, and she's able to see overlays or energies come around me or emanate through me, or however it manifests, because she's just awesome that way, and it helps me get feedback on what am I doing, right? And you know, as you continue to grow as a couple, you help each other just discover each other even more of what can you do.
You're constantly teaching each other.
Exactly.
You're constantly teaching each other, and it just flows so naturally back and forth.
Right, and there's not a banter of, I ain't into that type of stuff. Ding. You know.
Yes, and I never find myself, and I have an only child, so I should just put that out there on top of the independence thing. But Ivan is the first person in my life I've never found myself going, I need some personal space. I need a day to me. I gotta go to the gym. I gotta go over here now. I gotta go do stuff. I'm actually like a stage 5 clinger. I'm more like, do you want to go to the gym together? Do you want to go do stuff? I want to go to the store. Do you want to come with me? You don't have to come with me, but you can come with me if you want to.
She's not a stage 5 clinger at all. She is a personal trainer, and she has done that for many years. So now I'm at the benefit of, and I am so freaking lucky that I have a person that has this type of forte. Because she's like, hey babe, you want me to train you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's awesome. Personal trainer, right? She's gonna help. I put the effort, she guides me on how to mold my body. This is awesome, right? You would think. Until you're doing the job. Until she's making you do certain movements. Until you're like, I'm allowing her to have, well, I'm not allowing you to have the reins, but I'm allowing her to guide me and position me and say, do this, do that, because she is training me. And just like a lot of people, when you pay for personal trainers, it's like, so you're paying someone to come and make you feel a lot more pain, and you're paying these people to cause you this discomfort, even though there are very positive benefits, but it's like, we pay to get tortured like this. Why do we do this? And I have a beautiful soul that does that for me.
We have fun.
We do.
We have fun together. We're growing together. We're learning together. Loving together.
Yeah. This is
so that's our takeaway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really wanted to make a video about the difference between karmic relationships and divine partnerships. Take the twin flame part out of it.
Yes.
And just put divine partnership.
And stop trying to look for that
person.
That I need to have my person. Where's my twin flame? Like,
you're causing more resistance and more blockage.
And attracting something to yourself you might not want, because there's a lot of nefarious energy floating around just looking for an open door to step through. So, yeah. And
no disrespect towards anyone. You can be like, hey, I'm a fractal of this, I'm a fractal of that, I'm an angelic, I'm a galactic, Congratulations, we all are. Her beautiful angelic self is phenomenal. Her beautiful galactic self, which she has taught me many lessons on how to get over myself, which was tied into my ego. So she has been a tremendous teacher for me. I'm gonna call her Galactic Melissa. Oh no. Anyways, and many other aspects, but this is just the fun in, doing your inner work, self-discovery, and eventually as you continue to self-discover and bring yourself into wholeness, you're emanating that frequency and you're existing in that frequency. And when you let go of, I gotta find my person, let go of that, because you're holding on to a certain distorted concept. Yes. And when you let go of that distorted concept and allow it to flow away, that distorted concept is holding space here. Yes. That distorted concept is right here. Let go of that distorted concept, guess what? Now there's a vacancy here. And now that freaking appropriate divine balance concept that is the one that's the proper resonance for your heart, your soul, comes in and you're allowing it to come and fill this void where that distorted concept was at. And
Yes.
effortlessly, all of a sudden, miraculously, you come across a certain person that knows a person, or you happen to be in a certain place and you strike up a conversation with a random person. And then you find yourself, wow, this person is quite interesting.
It's a frequency match.
Yes.
If you're carrying the frequency of distortion, of finding the twin flame to complete you, you're going to find somebody who is codependent, needy, or carries that within them as well. If
Right.
you're carrying the frequency of, I'm healed and I'm whole, I'm always working on my healing and my own masculine and feminine,
Our
my own
balance.
energy, balancing those, and that's what I put out into the world, then you're going to attract somebody who's carrying that frequency as well.
And,
So
and,
that's
and with that being said, that means there may be some baggage that person may work on and eventually work out, but it's minimal baggage or a lot less baggage than the person that's carrying a lot of the distortion. The distortion is the baggage. So that's just food for thought. Again, we thought it would be very beneficial just to share from our perspectives and why a lot of people get caught up with, I found my twin flame, I found my soulmates. Let go of the labels and allow your divinity within yourself to literally attract that divinity that is the complement to the divinity within yourself. Drop the labels. Don't get caught up in the whole he said, she said, blah, blah. Keep on working on you. And eventually, like I said, we were not looking for nothing.
That's a double negative, you know. If your English teacher was here,
So it is a positive thing that we're together. Telling you. So
if you found this helpful today at all, if you have any questions, if you would like to email us for sessions or anything else, you can reach us at Unity4Gaia, that's UNITY, the number 4 Gaia, we all know how to spell that, GAIA, at gmail.com. And until we see you next time, thank you for joining us. We love you. Namaste.
Te sho utaita iatera e o ototso sha iate sete e otoso uma ia hera e shaiara. Enjoy your lives.